Hello everybody and welcome to the Comments Gate Art Stream. My name is Brian. How are you guys doing? So, taking a little break from the t-shirt design because frankly I'm a little bit confused about what is being asked for, and I don't think that there's like a crazy rush on it. I'm almost done anyway. My only questions involve the lettering, which are things I don't really even have to do. So I figured it's probably a good idea to move on, try to be productive instead of like waiting in limbo. So what I'm gonna do in the meantime is there's some stuff about page 1 that I'm not crazy about. So I'm gonna try to make it better. So I'm basically just doing that. Let's see. That's where we are on pages. Yeah, I kind of like that. So I'm gonna change this bottom panel. I also want to change the top panel a little bit. I'm definitely gonna change the bottom one. And I'm gonna try something completely different. So, how are you guys doing? Pencil, zoom in. Is this a pencil? Damn. Oh, I think it's because this as crummy as usual, just woke up. Hey Cortana, play Sitting in Limbo by Jimmy Cliff for my friend Brian. Do you actually use Cortana unironically? So, dudes, I gotta tell you, man. Did you see? And it wasn't on Blair's channel, so if you didn't, I would understand. Blair White appeared on this other guy's channel, and they had a discussion / debate. I don't know what I would call it, to be honest. And this dude was like a radical, far left, communist SJW dude, right? And I mean, like, he didn't consider himself, he says that there are people further left than him, but this guy is a violent revolutionary. Like, he described himself as a violent revolutionary himself, okay? And he was talking to Blair White, and I could not believe, like, I mean, this guy was fucking scary, dude. I was legit, he was a scary person. And the thing is he was, if you watch him, you know, he's like, kind of like Big Joel, or, you know, or even like the Echoplex guy, where they try to sound really reasonable, or like ContraPoints, you know, where they use like Michael Eric Dyson language to try to sound really reasonable, but when you like listen to what it is that they actually are like advocating for, it's scary as shit. I don't watch Blair anymore. It wasn't on Blair's channel. And frankly, it wasn't really about Blair, what I'm talking about. It's more about the other guy. Let me ask you guys a question, because I've been thinking about this a lot. Maybe I've asked this already. Do you think that that men's rights can be a left-wing position? Do you think that men's issues should be or can be nonpartisan? And when I say that, I don't mean conservative and liberal, because obviously men's rights is a liberal position. In fact, it's progressive. But what I'm talking about is, can it be a left-wing position? Because left-wingers, even if they call themselves progressives, are not progressive. I just want to know that, because it is something that I've thought about a lot. And it's just my personal belief, but I don't see how it's possible. Commies are scary anytime. I believe that, sure, I'm sure they have been worse crazy people than Jeffrey Dahmer too. Doesn't mean Dahmer wasn't fucking batshit crazy. Yes, Anna Cherry is pretty left-wing, for example. Yeah, I know she is, I know. And I just, but I wonder, and I love Anna Cherry, don't get me wrong, but I wonder if she, because I'm starting to wonder, like, okay, if we got a socialist utopia, and then like the reality starts kicking in, even if it doesn't, okay, so we're gonna basically make everyone you know, pay for everything and make everything free, right? Let's just pretend that that's a thing that can happen. The reality is, though, it's gonna come out of taxation. If it comes out of taxation, who's gonna be the person who will be the ones paying for everything? Will it be women or will it be men? And if it's men, then would that not be, by default, a men's issue? Who is going to benefit the most? Is it going to be women or is it going to be men? And I'm not even like bringing in actual men's issues. Like you could have I guess you could have a world where there's no circumcision. You can have a socialist world where there's no social circumcision and there's no rape is treated gender neutral, and parents, fathers will have custody of their children. I suppose, like, you can have all those things, but will there actually be equality? Doesn't the idea of socialism and left-wing ideology depend on a narrative that involves an oppressor and the oppressed? Could MRAs even construct a narrative? Like, I know that MRAs don't construct a narrative of that men are oppressed. They simply make the case that men have problems. Why did that... That's weird. Why is this box so big? Like, did I make a mark over here? I'm just gonna... kind of like that head a lot more. I don't think it's a left-wing position, though, because society's success relies on men's success. Equity requires suppressing men's drive to succeed. Yeah, that's a very good point. I think it's hard for men's rights to be a left-wing position. Left-wing likes more government. That stymies men and their penchant for risk-taking. Yeah. I'm starting to really, think that. Like, I asked Lucien Valsan in an interview about it, and I said, can you be an MRA and be on the left? And he said, no, absolutely not. And I'm starting to really see what he means by that. Let me just draw this guy's shirt and stuff. So, it makes sense to me that, you just couldn't do that. Alright. So, this hand... And by the way, just because I conclude that, it doesn't necessarily mean that men's rights has to be right-wing either. I think it can be right-wing, but I don't think it's conservative by any stretch. You see, this is the reason why I don't like people conflating right-wingers with conservatives. It's just one of many reasons. And left-wingers with liberals, because the left is not liberal, and the right is not inherently a conservative thing. And yeah, there are right-wingers that say that it is, or they conflate them, and I think that they're wrong. I think that it's incorrect. And I think that it's, it only serves to add more confusion, in my opinion. I think that to be on the right just simply means that you are in favor of less government control and more freedom. That's it. And that is not a necessarily conservative or liberal position. That is more about the state. And that the more I think about it, the less sense it makes to make those synonyms. So, I could go left-winger and force you to be an MRA. Yeah, that necessitates that, huh? In a communist country, they are all equally miserable. And the work is by quota. Quota spelled with a Q, Zedman, but... Jimmy Stifffinger says, I guess I'm not an MRA then. Good to know. No need, just smells like tribalism and purity spiraling. Not sure what you mean. I'm just, working this stuff out, so... Oh, I guess you're replying to Lucien Valsan. Well, let me ask you this, then. If you're on the left, why? Because I used to think of myself that way, too. So, this isn't meant to be disparaging. And I'm not going to make the claim that all left-wingers are communists. Because I don't think that they are. I think that they come in degrees. But what I want to know is, if you are on the left, why are you on, like, what is it that you believe makes you a left-winger? Because I think that one of the main reasons why we're running into so many problems and people are getting so polarized is because I don't think that we are really like defining our terms. So like Tim Pool keeps going, you know, I'm a moderate leftist, or I am a leftist, but I don't believe X, Y, or Z, or whatever. But I'm wondering, like, well, what if we're working with wrong definitions? What if we're working with definitions that the left or the right or both have kind of like constructed specifically to create confusion? So like, well, you know, when feminists define rape or rape culture or toxic masculinity, you ever notice that whenever people push back on these ideas, they say, oh, you don't get it because you don't know what the definition is. Let me tell you what feminism actually means. It means equality, right? Let me tell you what toxic masculinity actually means. It doesn't mean that all men are toxic or masculinity is toxic. And so you end up like getting like stuck in this spiral of let's define terms forever. And I think that we need to like figure out what we really mean when we talk about this stuff. So yeah, that guy looks a bit better. He's like happier. I love my job. Tim Pool is a moderate leftist, left libertarian. Moderate, massive government supporter on the left, no contradictions. Yeah, it's a bit confusing. I have been voting right-wing for the last years, though. I believe there's a place for welfare as long as the country can support it and within bounds. Yeah, but I think that moderate right-wing people would also argue the same thing. Like, I don't want to just... And the problem is, too, is that the longer we have a welfare system, the harder it is to just, like, unplug people from it. So, yeah, I think we need stuff to protect people who experience, you know, financial hardship. I don't think that that's necessary. Like, I think to some degree it is a left-wing position, but I think that there are right-wing people that would agree to some welfare. The question is how much. The question is for how long, and the question is, like, do we have any plans to at some point try to unplug it? Because I'll tell you what I think. I think that the longer we have a welfare system, the more people become dependent on it. So it sort of becomes like a self-fulfilling thing. The longer you have it, the harder it is for people to give it up. Because they become dependent and reliant on it, they haven't actually made any changes in their own life to prepare for it possibly, like, you know, going away. So the big issue is, at what point do we take it away? Because it's not sustainable forever. You just can't do it. So, like, what do you do? And here's what I was thinking is the solution. This is the reason why I think men's rights is at the center of everything, okay? And when I say men's rights, I guess what I mean is men's issues, gender, politics, with the inclusion of men in the conversation. Because while this isn't 100% fix, if we have fewer single mothers, we will have a significantly reduced welfare state. Single motherhood is the biggest, let's say, the biggest market of welfare. So if there's fewer single moms, there's going to be fewer people on welfare. And the only way we can change that is if we change the situation for fathers. Now, not all of that can be done through the legal system because, you know, like, I mean, just like, it's just not. Like, it's got to be a social thing. We got to change the social habits, as it were, so that mothers, women, are more likely to choose men who are going to stick around. And there's incentive for men to stick around when women have babies with men. Now, I'm not making a tradcon argument per se, but people are going to reproduce. That's not, like, that is just the fact. So if they are, we want to take away the incentive for single motherhood. And I think the only way you can do that is by putting men back in the home. And then as you put more men back in the home with their kids, you take away the welfare state little by little. Because you know, if you just like take it away, you're not only hurting the single moms on the welfare state, but you're especially hurting the children. So I think that that's the only way you can really solve the problem. But I do believe that, yes, people need help. I just worry that, I just don't know that the welfare state is the best way to help them. Because I think that it sort of like turns them into drug addicts, you know? And I know women, truth, like absolutely, that they only had kids because those kids provided them with tax breaks. Not even lying, not even a little bit. It's like straight up, it was true. Let's see. Voting doesn't matter because people who aren't responsible for the system are making decisions on how the system is run. Yeah. I always found that those who give you money believe that act gives them the right to determine your actions instead of you determining your own actions. We've been shaming people for smoking for years. We can do that with single motherhood too if we want. Well, I think one of the things that help with the smoking, because I mean, I think that there are significantly fewer people that smoke these days than there were. I think. Maybe I'm wrong though. If you guys know the data on that, let me know, because I never looked into it. But I feel like I see fewer people smoking now than I did when I was growing up. But it wasn't just shaming people. It was also, I'm just gonna move this here. It wasn't just shaming people. It was also the fact that we did a lot of advertising campaigns and public service announcements, telling people like the health risks. So like talking openly about the health risks of smoking. And of course there were places that, you know, like banned smoking. Like, I don't think that that's a way that I'd like to go. And I don't know how you could even like do that with single motherhood. But as far as, let's just put this there. That looks a lot better to me. But yeah, mostly I think that, yeah, it's about like getting like the public consciousness to, yeah, I got paid, to sort of see single motherhood and not celebrate it. I think that's definitely a big start, and I think that we've been praising it for too long. I mean, when Father's Day comes around, you see more shit about single moms than you do about dads. Okay. The right is just a category, not a uniformity. And the success of those programs has led to constructing definition is too broad to be useful. The right has principle. I think that this is how I see it. Okay, left and right exists on a spectrum. In the center, you have most people who believe that we should be spending tax, like basically entering a country is like agreeing to a contract in which, you know, your tax dollars are going to be used for defense, which every country has to have, from defense and protection for its citizens, foreign and domestic. So cops and, you know, military, okay? Got to have those things. And some degree of welfare, some kind of welfare structure, whether it's, you know, to help people that, you know, lose their homes, or to help people who are, you know, financially find themselves downtrodden or whatever. I think that that's basically in the middle. Some of the welfare state, some of the, you know, the military and tax spending on infrastructure, all those things, right? That's basically what we have. The further to the left you go, the more you believe that taxpayer money should be used to make the citizens equal. So that everyone lives a more comfortable and more equitable life. But of course, the more you tax people, the more you have to be authoritarian. That's absolutely necessary. You can't be a libertarian and be on the left, because you have to spend other people's money to get the things done. And the further left you go, the more top down the structure becomes, because it's like, you know, you have to have government redistributing wealth, whether it is to other citizens or it goes into those programs. Okay, and typically the left is like anti-war, so they don't think the military is where the money should be spent, but rather it should be spent on the citizens in the form of universal health care. You know, like if you go further and further left, you get like universal health care, you get what is it that Andrew Yang was talking about, you know, a living wage, like everyone just gets money, you know. And then you move away from free market capitalism, because you have to control the means of production the further left you go. So instead of like having your choice between Hellman's mayonnaise and Miracle Whip, then you just have something called mayonnaise, and it's just like a government produced product called mayonnaise. You know, the further left you go, the more likely that is going to be the case. The further right you go, I think the smaller government you want. And look, this isn't about religious conservatism versus liberalism. Like, those are social things. How you feel about the gays and the blacks and you know, women or whatever, that's got nothing to do with this stuff. It really doesn't. The left makes it out that way, a lot of leftist activist types, but in my opinion, it's not that. It's got nothing to do with that at all. Okay, so the further left you go, the more, you know, the further right you go, the more anti-government you become, until you go like on the far end of the right scale is anarcho-capitalism, where there's like no government and everything is free market, and you know, like everything is privatized, like the roads, the, you know, the healthcare, the everything is privatized, or it's based on a model of charity. So if someone loses their home, or if people are struggling, then maybe there are charities for it. You know, everything that needs to be funded is funded via charity. And that's when you go all the way on the right. Okay, also I believe an unworkable model. I know ANCAPs, if there are any ANCAPs watching, they probably think that, you know, they're probably reeing right now, but I don't think that we could ever live in an anarcho-capitalist society, because the problem is that inevitably you have people stacking up at the bottom that can't cope or can't hang, and they become bitter and they become revolutionaries, and you will have unrest. Okay, I think it's as impossible as going all the way to the left and going full communism. So like all the way on the right is anarcho-capitalism, all the way on the left is communism, which has to be top-down authoritarian control. And I think that both of them are equally not probable not likely, because human nature just won't let either of those things happen. Okay? So the best you can hope for is a happy balance, but I think that we can probably move a little bit further away from the state. I think that we should do it in the way that the founding fathers may have intended, where each state in the United States is treated like a miniature country, and they have their way of doing things, and then like there's like a federal state whose only job was supposed to essentially ensure that people have their rights, so they don't get their rights don't get trampled on, and there's no tyranny from within in the individual states, and to protect the borders of the country. So we've gone way off the rails on that, in my opinion, but I think that that's where we were supposed to be, in my opinion. So those are my thoughts on that. You're just a filthy statist, Brian. It would last 3 generations, I figure. Minarchist is workable. I agree. I think libertarianism or minarchism is workable. However, here's the problem. Another problem. And this goes back to the gender thing. And this is why I think the gender thing is absolutely crucial. Okay. So the problem with minarchism and libertarianism is women. Women do not want that women value security over freedom. In fact, women see security as freedom. When they see, this guy's Jewish, that's why his nose is like this. When they see a society that is safe, they think that they are free. You ever notice, and this is not freedom by a man's definition. Men see freedom as freedom. Women see security as freedom. And it makes sense when you think about it. Women are more risk averse. Freedom is risky. Okay? That's why more men tend to be right wing and more women tend to be left wing. I think this is the reason why we have 2 wings, is because we have 2 genders. That's how I see it. And let's give an example, because feminists are left wing and they believe they basically think like women. And I say that because feminists are not women. Obviously there are male feminists, but they think in that same way. So, what is a right that you hear feminists say that isn't actually a right? Well, they'll say things like the right to be able to walk home from work without feeling unsafe, or the right to be able to go on public transportation without getting harassed. Well, that's not a right, but what is it then? Well, they're asking for security. They want to feel safe. They value safety over freedom, because women value safety over freedom. And because of that, women tend to not be libertarians. There are some exceptions. Julie Borowski is a well-known, she used to be really pretty big, actually. I don't know if she still does anything, but you guys know Julie Borowski. She's this really cute Southern girl that used to make libertarian videos, right? She is a good example of a female libertarian, but she's really rare. 2 scoops, 2 terms, 2 genders, 2 wings, 2 nukes. Having a strong family unit is way more safe than being protected by the government, and many women would understand this. Yeah, but when you take, that's just it, Jay Willie. When you break the family up and you take the father out, you create a sense of urgency and panic in women. So they start looking to the government for the things that a man would provide them with, which is security. And you demonize men constantly, and you tell women that the men that are around them are the ones they should be afraid of. This is why you create this. You basically tell women, the men that you want to, like, you know, to feel safe, they're the ones you should be afraid of the most. And then you combine that with the fact that male feminists tend to be kind of scary, and it just reinforces that fear in women. So they're going to become more likely to be dependent. Like when their most trusted ally ends up killing his girlfriend with a gun or whatever, and he was supposed to be the ultimate feminist. I think that actually creates that's how you create that fear in women, right? Like all this talk about tribalism, well, not tribalism, I'm sorry. All this talk about racism and Islamophobia and all of that, those are all just tribalisms, right? Those are just tribalisms because we are tribal people. It's the way we are. So what happens when you take the one tribe that people are probably should be, I guess you could say, probably should be seeing themselves as a part of, which is the immediate tribe, the smallest tribe, the family unit. Well, then you make everyone cling, because they're looking for tribes. They just link to other tribes. It's like, why are there gangbangers, right? Gangbangers exist because they're looking for family. It's like Fast and the Furious, right? Family. Brian Martinez just explained how feminism is the biggest oppressor of women. Well, it is. Yeah. Male feminists are scary and too weak to protect the women. That's why feminists still go for the big, strong guy. This is what I get from Esther Villers, The Manipulated Man. Men did all this stuff for women when they never asked for it. Any wonder that most feminists then and now were middle class? Yeah. I'm just yeah, I like this a lot better. Anyway, but you get where I'm coming from, right? So, okay, let me just close with, because I'm going to be talking about this at the ICMI. Because, you know, like, people might be wondering, well, why do we have people at the ICMI this year that aren't MRAs? But they talk about the culture war in a broader light. Well, I think that there's a relationship. And I think that these guys are pretty close to figuring it out, but I think they need a little nudge. As Gandalf would say, a little nudge out of the door. Human beings are tribal by nature. I think that the idea that we should see each other only as individuals is a little bit of a pipe dream. But I think that what we can do is we can curb that. And the way that we do that is to redirect that tribal energy in a place that is more constructive. Back in the day, speaking of Lord of the Rings, people didn't used to identify themselves by their race, but rather by their family. For example, my grandmother always thought of us as not Puerto Ricans, but Martinezes. I mean, we were Puerto Ricans, but if you think of it like you're part of the Martinez family, that's the tribe, right? So I think that the bigger a tribe gets, the more chaotic it becomes and the more dangerous it is. It becomes more like a mob. It becomes easier to manipulate. It becomes easier to infiltrate. And men and women are not a tribe, even though feminists want them to be, because they want to sow resentment in women and they want to demonize men. So, how do you fight against that? Well, you make a stronger tribe. The tribe that is the family. The family unit is the smallest tribe, and it's the hardest one to break up. Assuming it's not dysfunctional. But I think it gives you your best odds, is what I'm saying. So, like, if black people saw themselves as part of their tribe, which is their family, as opposed to seeing themselves as part of the black tribe, I think that they'd be a lot better off. And I think that the problems with perceived racism would almost entirely vanish. I think that same thing goes for people who see themselves as a certain other races or religions or whatever, because the traits associated with a certain racial group, ethnicity, religion, etc., it's not that they would go away, because I think that they'll always be there, but I think that they will be less important. People won't be defined as simply members of Group X, but rather they'll be part of their family tribe. They'll have the father and the mother right there, right? I think that, and the extended family and stuff. So, you like clans, yeah, but I think that people are less tribal, like in a destructive way, when they are part of their clan, because it's a different dynamic, right? Because the leader of your clan, the leaders of your clan are right there, and they're gonna help you, right? They care about each other. They look out for each other. The scale is smaller. It's a lot easier to manage. Like here's another, because I'm having a hard time putting this into words. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying, but look at it this way. Communist countries don't work, right? There's like, a success rate of 0 on that. However, communes in small scales, they're a lot easier to manage, and therefore they end up being more successful when it's a small number of people. Like, there are communes in California where people, the communists, live together, and they're, off the grid and all that. But they do a lot better. I mean, they're actually, happy. And I think that this is where they get that idea that communism could work, because at their small scale, it seems to work. Right? The problem is, though, the more people you try to get involved, the more unmanageable it becomes, I think. So you can't do communism on a big scale. You can do it with a family. You can do it with a small group of people, say like 20 or so. But once you get into the thousands, or even the hundreds, it starts to fall apart. Those communes are absolute hellholes. Well, I wouldn't want to live in one, but the people who live there seem to be like pretty happy, right? So the point is, though, I don't think that communes result in genocide. They're just kind of like a shitty way to live. In my opinion. But the fact is, though, if you want to, if you don't want to live under the boot of capitalism, the commune is probably your best bet. You know, they're like outside versions of an ADHD kid's room. The nuclear family is a functionally communistic model, but communism is reliant on capitalism around it. Yeah. Which means it's not real communism, you know. Some governmental structures do not scale up. Communes can't exist without hierarchy. After typing that, somewhere a leftist is shuddering. Yeah, well, I mean, they ultimately do because people want to be led. You know? I mean, you guys know that there are still people that believe that, you know, the best way forward is a monarchy and that we should go back to monarchies? The fuck? I don't think that's gonna happen, but you know what? I could be absolutely wrong. I think that human beings will surprise you with what they're willing to put up with. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I kind of like this guy. I'm gonna give him some chest hairs. All right. So let me. This head is a bit too big for my purposes. This is the reason why I needed to change this. So I'm gonna make it smaller. Maybe a little bit smaller still. Okay. The guy you're drawing should shave his head. Yeah, he's I figure he'd be kind of like, you know, somebody who's pretty happy with the way he looks. He doesn't feel the need to do that. Besides, this guy's already bald. And I don't want to get too redundant. So this is the thing that progressives against the patriarchy and hierarchy don't get. And they reject the progressive stack when you tell them about it. Once the group is large enough, people are, yeah. Monaco is going pretty good, and they are a monarchy. It's pretty small, though, right? I don't know. I don't know about that, man. I don't know about monarchies. That doesn't sound democratic to me. Democratic. That's a good thing. Starve to death. Oh shit, I gotta draw more of this guy's taco meat in here. Hold on. I know this guy's supposed to be Jewish, but I feel like he looks Greek to me. Like, I feel like I drew a Greek guy instead. All right. Monaco is a principality. Is that Lester? What's the name of the guy Tom Cruise played in Tropic Thunder? Oh, yeah. Les Grossman. Playa? I didn't think of it that way, but you're right. He looks like Les Grossman. I will fuck you up! Anyway, dudes, if you get a chance, because I gotta wrap it up here pretty soon. Look up Blair White's interview. I can like find it and maybe drop a link in the chat here. This dude that she ends up talking to, he is a scary fucking communist. Like, I mean, I find communists to be fucking scary, honestly. I find leftists, they frighten me. And I'm not one that wants to like get into, you know, get to a point where I get disgusted, like a disgust reaction going, because I'm, you know, I'm pro freedom and all of that, but Jesus Christ, this guy, he was fucking scary, man. Like he just struck me as someone will kill you if you stood in his way. And he doesn't like, you know, he doesn't rant or anything like that. It's just about how do I put this? It's about like how calmly he expresses his opinions about his beliefs, and how, you know, he's okay with violence, like he's pro-violence, but he says it in such a way that is so calm and you know, it's measured. Like you just know that this guy is not just crazy. He's got evil in him. And I don't say that lightly, because I'm not like I'm not a religious guy, but that dude was, I think that dude was evil. And like, he said some nutty shit. Like he accused Blair White of lying about her positions. He thinks that you know, gender doesn't exist. It's just some shit we made up to control people. He thinks that, oh, here's one. He thinks that if you don't medicate, like put children on hormone blockers, you're a transphobe that's gonna hurt them in the long run. He doesn't like the what he calls a right-wing talking point, that children on hormone blockers is a bad idea. He thinks that that's actually a fucking partisan issue. He says Steven Crowder is a legit fascist, and fuck him and fuck anyone who listens to him. I mean, the guy is like that's not crazy, okay? That's not crazy. That's evil. The shit that he was saying scared me. And I mean, like, scared me that he had like 26,000 followers. And that, which is more than we have on our Badger live streams. And that he was okay with people dying if they got in the way. He was okay with violence, which means you're okay with murder, to get your way. Guys got guns. A credible threat is not shouted out. It was stated as an incontrovertible fact. Evil has nothing to do with religion. Evil exists. Yeah. Evil is real, my guy. It's very real. Absolutely. Disgust reaction means your conservative circuits have been activated. Don't let that happen. I don't know that it's out of like a conservative thing. I don't know that I'm conservative. Like, what does that mean? I don't think I am. I'm liberal. I know that for sure. And socially, conservatism is a well, I guess it's also on a spectrum. Like, I don't think children should be on hormone blockers either. I don't think that despite the fact that I believe that pedophilia is a, you know, is a psychological issue. I don't think that it should be fucking legal. I don't think that, you know, I think these are pretty obvious things that I'm saying, but maybe that is a conservative talking point at this point. Fucking, I don't know, you know? All right. So I drew this guy and this guy. Let's see if that looks, I like the way that looks already. I'm going to, let's make this part disappear. Yeah, now they're going to be silhouetted, so these details are probably going to get lost. But I thought I would draw them anyway. So let's compare that to the way it was. Yeah, I don't like that. I like this a lot better. All right, so I'm going to save here. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So, is Brian Martinez conservative, Zaranks? It's a joke and Jordan Peterson reference. Oh, I'm sorry. Sting discussed sensitivity is stronger in conservatives. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I suppose, but I think that leftists get really disgusted. They get disgusted at things like straight white guys, like, existing. They get disgusted at things like heterosexuals making babies. They get disgusted at women that don't want to abort their children and want to talk about it. They get disgusted at Christian religion. They get disgusted at Donald Trump doing literally anything. Anything. Like this fucking guy that was on Blair White was talking to. Blair was talking about how she was seeing that you know, he was saying that, oh, you know, people are more open and like accepting of like gay people now and the LGBTQ, you know, people than they were before. And Blair said, I'm not sure about that because she said that she saw studies that show that the next generation is going to be more, possibly more anti-gay or anti-LGBTQ than any generation prior. And she was trying to explain why this is, and I think I understand why. I think that it's not necessarily that Generation Z is going to be anti-gay. I think it's that Generation Z is tired of the politics of the LGBT community, and they're like likely going to like rail against the political aspect and ask that people just shut the fuck up about who they like to bang and how they like to identify and leave them alone. And I think that that's not the same as being against gay people. But then this guy goes, do you think that that has anything to do with the election of Donald Trump? And I was like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Donald Trump was the most pro-LGBTQ president in history. He held up the fucking rainbow flag. He said that he was going to protect LGBTQ citizens from Islam. Like, where are you getting this from? Insane. But nonetheless, the guy's a moron. So, but a scary person. Anyway, are you a classical liberal, Brian Martinez? I don't know what that means. I hear that a lot. You know what? I'm a liberal. Classical liberal is, I think that that's not a good term to use because you're giving the term liberal to the left. The left is not liberal. They don't deserve to be called liberals. Don't give them that. Don't. So just say, I'm a liberal, and they're not liberals. They don't get to have, it's like, example, when someone, feminists say that they're about equality. So does that mean that they're egalitarians? No, they don't claim to be. They're not about equality, and I will never say that they're about equality, even if they claim to be, because they aren't. I'm about equality for whatever equality means, which for me means, you know, equality of opportunity, equality under the law. That's basically all you can ever ask for, right? But they're not. So I'm not going to let the left have classical liberal. Obviously, they're not. I mean, not when I say the left, I mean like the authoritarian left, which, of course, the further left you go, the more authoritarian you have to be, period. And I say this because people would say, well, the right can be authoritarian too. No, it's impossible. They're less authoritarian as you move further right because they want less government. What you might be referring to, though, are conservatives. Can conservatives be authoritarian? Absolutely. That's a separate conversation, though. One example, Islam, very conservative, very authoritarian, right? But also, I think that as far as, well, I don't really know how Islam treats its citizens, if they have like social programs or what have you, but I imagine that there is some of that going on. But for the most part, it is a kind of conservative authoritarian structure, probably like based on a monarch system, right? Because they have like caliphates and shit like that. So I think that's a different animal. Classical liberal is right of center. They can't have it, especially since they're against the founding fathers. It's all about the title. Yo, Brian, Hatman is trying to get in touch. I'm sorry, I'm finishing my stream. Let me take a look here. What's got you stuck? I have to, it's about, sorry, Micah, let me just tell you really quick and then I gotta go. But what I'm talking about is, I'm on the shirt design, and I guess what I want to know is, let me open it. Clip. I'm on the shirt design, and I guess what I want to know is, there it is right there, if, like, how the layout of the letters is supposed to be. So this is where I'm at. It's not like I can't finish this in, like, a really short amount of time, but I want you to see where I am, and I thought maybe we should talk about it so I can get it down, or maybe this could be even better, if Real Surge, our colorist, feels confident enough, maybe I can hand just the face to him and he can do the lettering. Because I'm a little, like I said, I'm not sure exactly what is being asked for, and so I feel like we should probably talk about it. That's what I'm getting at. So anyway, I hope you got that message, Micah. I'll try to I imagine we still have some time and we can like do an actual meetup and chat about the shirt design, but that's basically what I was doing. So with that said, I really gotta go, but let me just read a couple more of your comments. Those studies are more accepting of homosexuality, but less accepting of the LGBTQ community because the LGBT community is only a political community, and most gays are a part of the community. I'm not. Yeah, I that's what I'm saying. I think it's the politics, it's not the people. And I can understand that. I'm frankly tired of all identity politics, but I mean, it is what it is. This is where we are. And I think that in some respects there will always be people who are trying to push identity politics. I think there'll always be that, because when people fail, there are some people that need to figure out that the reason why they're failing has nothing to do with their inability, but rather it's because something external is oppressing them and preventing them from succeeding. And that's how they get caught up in identity politics. That sounds like a plan. I'll have Hatman expand in the server and we'll go from there. Okay. Liberalism is on the left in certain countries, as the Overton window is different depending on what country you are in, and social liberalism and neoliberalism fall on the left in America. Yeah, I mean, but I think that conservatism and liberalism are not, they are not, let's say, how do I put this? You can be both of those things. You can have you can be conservative on some things and liberal on other things. You can even be conservative when it comes to wanting to preserve or conserve liberalism. I think that is absolutely the case. Now, I'm not just it's not wordplay. I think it's true. And I think that the conversation around politics has become so corrupted and toxic that we can't talk about these things without seeing them as mutually exclusive ideas. But I don't think they are, So, but anyway, link the Blair interview here in the chat. Okay, hold on a second. I'll go get it right now. And I'll just get it for you. So the guy's name is Vaush, and I have the video here. Go ahead and check it out. Tell me next time I talk to you guys, let me know if you don't find this fucking dude scary. Like, be sure to watch the whole thing, but this dude is fucking scary. Okay, so with that said, I'm gonna go. Thanks, guys, for coming on. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the work that I'm doing. Also, be sure to go in the, if you haven't done it already, go into the description and click on that Indiegogo link to support Englewood, which is going to be coming out in a few months. So be on the lookout. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for coming on. Have a great afternoon, everybody.